mewek? Mau dibikin ngeri-ngeri sedep? Mau dibikin kaget? Mau dibikin penasaran? Mau dong! Di sini gudangnya informasi yang bikin kalian update gak kelar-kelar setiap hari. Ini baru Trans 7.
Apa ya? Makanan yang harganya receh tapi enaknya mantul.
Banyak pengen loh, ini dia. Menu receh, harga receh, dijamin enaknya mantul.
Enak banget. Coba Mel.
Apapun yang kamu pengenin, di sini referensi lengkapnya.
Ada yang ngiler.
Jajan terus bareng makan receh dan enaknya mantul. Ini baru Trans 7.
We are getting the grid forming here at the Bantu circuit.
Musim balap motor 2022 telah usai. Namun jiwa petualang untuk memacu adrenalin di atas roda 2 masih terus membara.
Away we go in Indonesia. Oh, what a dramatic start!
Mendaki gunung lewati lembah,
Baru mulai belum apa-apa, udah terjebak motornya.
menyusuri hutan, bahkan pelosok daerah yang jarang terjamah.
Sangat ekstrim dan sangat menyulitkan waktu.
Dengan latar belakang alam yang bersahaja
Stunning island of Lombok.
Mana nih tuh Hujan aku?
dan cara berkendara dengan kearifan lokal.
Can you believe it?
Banyak rintangan dalam sebuah perjalanan.
And the bike's on fire.
Terjatuh adalah pelajaran.
Goodness me, that was vicious.
Kembali bangkit sebuah keharusan. Deru petualangan tanpa henti, bertualang di negeri sendiri.
Unbelievable. What a finish.
Aduh, drama terus. Nonton nih, komedi yang nyegerin. Lucunya gak habis-habis. Ngelospol. Capek hati drama mulu. Mending dibawa happy. Mau dibikin ketawa? Mau dibikin mewek? Mau dibikin ngeri-ngeri sedep? Mau dibikin kaget? Mau dibikin penasaran? Mau dong! Di sini gudangnya informasi yang bikin kalian update gak kelar-kelar setiap hari. Ini baru Trans 7.
Apa ya? Makanan yang harganya receh tapi enaknya mantul.
Banyak pengen loh, ini dia. Menu receh, harga receh, dijamin enaknya mantul.
Enak banget. Coba Mel.
Apapun yang kamu pengenin, di sini referensi lengkapnya.
Ada yang ngiler.
Jajan terus bareng makan receh dan enaknya mantul. Ini baru Trans 7.
We are getting the grid form.
One, you saw a lot of regions that are way more developed than others.
True.
There's a lot of skill discrepancies over there, but here, for a match as big as Indonesia, Philippines, well, a lot of people actually predicted a 2-0, but not for Indonesia. So you're already seeing your expectations and your predictions get shattered on the first game. But remember, it is a best of 3. The Philippines can definitely come back and equalize in game number 2. But there's an equal chance that Indonesia can take this game and get a clean sweep over Philippines.
Well, this is what we just enjoy, right? This is what makes the competitive scene so good. If you already know it's going to be a 2-0, if you already know what's going to happen, why bother watching? But now, we just have no idea. I mean, we do this for a living, essentially, and we have no clue what's going to happen. I can't imagine what you guys back at home are feeling right now, especially when you're very aggressively, passionately supporting your country of origin.
As casters here, we obviously look at it by the books. The numbers is what we look at it primarily, especially when we're looking at a match as big as this. We predicted Philippines to win in game number 1 based on their draft and also based on their experience. This is a very well-experienced team, a team that we've seen compete in a lot of international events, winning the SEA Games, winning the M3 World Championships with this lineup. But without further ado, we're going to jump into the drafts for game number 2. Philippines now on the red side, so there is a swap.
There is a swap, but it seems like the bands are not too far different from each other, actually. If we can see here the Fanny, the Diggy, and the Benedetta as well as the Atlas. So it's, I think Philippines are still trying to curb that aggression coming in from the side of Indonesia. And Indonesia, on the other hand, wants to eliminate all these very annoying, very difficult problems, like the crowd control, like the Benedetta. They can be so elusive, especially in the hands of mechanical heroes, right? That is the main concern here, that the mechanical prowess that some of these players can bring to the table on the right heroes.
We'll see if they go for their comfort picks again that we saw earlier on, we did see Soriano pick that Beatrix. It's a signature pick. He's known as the Filipino sniper ever since he picked up that Beatrix at M3 when he displayed the crazy accuracy on the Renner, right? He also went on to get the finals MVP at M3. So whenever you see a Beatrix, especially on this Filipino side, you just expect them to find a lot of success with it. And they did early on. They utilized the Beatrix really well by clearing out the waves faster than the Melissa, not taking those trades, and again, going for that efficient macro gameplay by rotating together as a team. The Ube scrap that we've seen so many times before worked up against Team Indonesia. We watched a replay, and we saw what happened, what led up to that flank from Psychots that turned the game around. It was when Soriano stole the orange buff, and when he walked down to the mid lane, he did not check the bush. And this is something that I mentioned is very uncharacteristic for Soriano. Usually on the Renner, he shoots at every bush,
Just
he
in
doesn't
case.
leave any bush behind. He tries to open it up, and sometimes even after shooting it, he walks in just to check. And that's the little mistake. That's the little moment that actually ended up being the core, the reason, the
Exactly.
sole reason, I believe, as to how Indonesia were able to come back.
It's definitely the turning point, right? It only takes one moment for you to lose a game where you've been dominating for about 10 minutes. This is why the Mobile Legends is so exciting. The game's pace is insane, and once you lose your tempo, once you lose your advantage, it's a completely different game, and you need to adjust and do things differently from what you've been actually performing for the last 10 minutes. So now we'll have to see. I mean, the Beatrix, man, it's, at this point, you see a Beatrix, it's synonymous with the Filipino sniper almost. It just comes to mind. So this is definitely something that the Philippines will try and use again. And we already mentioned earlier that having such a diverse choice of weapons allows the Beatrix to do different things. Burst people down, clear waves, right? Poke people from far away, take down turrets from far away as well. So just like that, it has been picked up. And if you look at Indonesia though, that Farsa ban, I think they're trying to curb the range from the Philippines, because that is something that the Philippines absolutely use to their advantage. The kite back and that range advantage to poke down, slowly but surely, the members from Indonesia.
To add on to that, we already know that the Farsa is just a signature pick for Imam in that mid lane, but Indonesia will go for the same pick. You pick up the Beatrix, we'll take the hero that countered that Beatrix, that was able to give the Beatrix so much problems in game number 1. With the Yuzong now picked up, they are going to go for the Iesf as well. And with this Iesf, it does show that they are really trying to stop this Beatrix from being a problem. Soriano on his comfort pick once again, but he's already getting countered by 2 heroes, technically, right now.
With the right item builds, 2 or 3 bolts from the real-world manipulation will be enough to zone away to get the Beatrix low enough that he'll be out of the fight. And to make things worse for him right now, the slows, right? The slows here will allow Psychos to catch up with anyone from the side of the Philippines that much more decisively. So the utility game is definitely on point on this Iesf pick.
Agreed.
And if you think about it, I think it's going to be very difficult for the Philippines to try and dive in, towards the side of Indonesia as well. So the kiting game that the Philippines have been abusing so often has been slightly countered by this utility from Indonesia. It's a very smart option.
The Mathilda, though, they're still going and opting for the same pick as game number 1. But like we mentioned, Philippines don't really need to change their drafts. What they need to change, in our opinion, after the game, after we spoke about it a bit, is how they took that game, how they executed their game plan. Because it came down to that 10-minute moment, that moment where Soriano did not check the bush. That moment gave Indonesia a chance to turn the tides, and this time, Philippines need to be a bit more disciplined. They need to stick with what works. Don't change the course of action by going for these team fights that are technically, or yeah, literally unnecessary with this team composition. They can disengage really well, they can siege very well, but you can see right now with the Melissa ban, Philippines are already changing just a few things.
Are they going to go for the front two backs? Because I was about to say, in the previous game, they made sure Brands was having a difficult time. They made sure that Soriano was the one having a great lane. But due to that action, Psychots was able to actually be relatively impactful in the game, despite a very rough early game as well. So maybe, I was thinking that they might just change their area of focus. But now with the ban towards Brands here, it seems like they are planning on doing the same thing, just better, just cleaner.
Well, in game number 1, they banned out the Leslie and the Claude. So that means with the Melissa ban, one of those heroes will be left to open. Leslie and Claude, which are both lethal on the hands of Bronze, right? And looking at how he played the lane, honestly, I do feel like Philippines might want to give Indonesia the Claude, ban the Leslie, right? Because Leslie will create more problems for them, especially if Brands gets to farm as he usually does. He's so good at playing it slow, farming to get those power spikes. And now we're going to have to see what they go for in the bans right now. And Rashi, what do you think it's going to be?
Ooh. Valentina has been banned away from Indonesia, by Indonesia actually, so Philippines, they won't have that kind of flexibility available to them. So it's interesting to see what exactly will be the solution, especially for that Iesf. Not a lot of heroes can match that mid-range coming in, that long-range artillery and utility. So they might just go the opposite direction and go for something aggressive, something that can just be a big problem, a big kill pressure, kill threat for that Iesf. On the side of the Philippines, though, they go for that Claude ban instead. So Leslie is the option that they would rather face, Mirko.
All right. That's something that I personally don't agree with, right? I expected them to ban the Leslie because in the later stages, this Leslie is going to create more problems for them. Remembering that Philippines already have a taunt, already have some CC, and they already have very good disengage. With the Mathilda, the Claude won't really be able to catch up in a lot of these positions, right? But I feel like Philippines are looking at it in another way. They're looking at that Iesf, they're looking at that Divine Judgment from the Kaja and the Furious Dive, obviously with the Petrify from the Yuzong. All these three heroes can lock people down for the Claw to deal so much damage, and this team fight hero is going to fit really well in Indonesia's composition. So Philippines, they're already changing a few things here now, hovering over the Faramis to go to the mid lane into the hands of Imam, and this will definitely help them because the Faramis was also one of the reasons as to why they weren't able to melt the Indonesian members down.
Not just melt the Indonesian members down, it's also the reason why they lost that fight where they were able to keep, Indonesia was able to keep Brands alive using that Cult Altar, and of course, off the back of a very great play from Brands himself. But with the Faramis in the picture, the Philippines have a lot more utility when it comes to actual survivability. They have a lot of saves, a lot of shielding, and now with the Cult Altar, that extra bit, that second chance at in the middle of a big fight. But for Indonesia, having more control on where the Philippines can maneuver around, that might be a better solution. They have banned away the Lapu-Lapu as well, so the dive potential from Philippines is very, very minimal, and we have to see what exactly will be the choice here, because for the Philippines, it seems to be the same thing. Front to back all the way, abuse range, save our core members, and just like that, the answer from Indonesia, Leslie, and now it's the Akai.
Well, now considering that they have these two very vulnerable backline heroes. They need something like the Akai to provide a bit more peel, cover for the team, but Philippines respond with Grok in the jungle for Del Rosario.
What?
We mentioned that he likes to go for some crazy picks sometimes, like the Valentina, the Guinevere as well in the jungle. Well, he's trying to pull off the Grok in the jungle now here in Iesf. Last time we saw it, it was high.
It was high, and this is a very interesting situation here because earlier in the game number 1, we saw that for Indonesia, they had an assassin, right? And that assassin was critical because in the late fights, you saw that Soriano was just unable to get anywhere safe. He was chased away by the Black Dragon form, and he was deleted by Taz on the Gusion. Now, with an Akai instead of a Gusion, can Indonesia get the same kind of pressure onto Soriano?
Well, that question will be answered very, very soon as we enter the game, Arashi. But this time, I think we can agree that we want to see the best of 3 go all the way.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
this time, me and Arashi will be predicting Indonesia to win, to use the caster curse to get the most value out of this incredible series of Indonesia versus Philippines. Once again, as we jump into the Land of Dawn with Taz starting on the orange buff and Del Rosario doing the same on the opposite side.
Slow start for both these junglers. They are tankier junglers essentially, so they are going to be playing a lot more for utility, but I guess Taz on the Akai can be a lot more aggressive, and just like that, you can see that the Philippines, they really enjoy using Villaluna to get a lot of information and just be a big nuisance, and you can see the response coming in from the Indonesian players. The Philippines already dictating what the movements are going to be.
Both teams, again, just fighting for that mid control that is so prio, so necessary now in this current meta. Both Taz and Del Rosario are looking to go for this Lethal Wanderer, but it does feel like Indonesia will have a bit more of an advantage with the faster wave clear in the mid lane. That's the Lethal Wanderer secured by Taz, getting him a bit more XP and gold to play with. So he'll have that power spike very early on, already at level 4.
As we mentioned, the wave clear game is now being a lot more monitored, a lot more managed by the players from the side of Indonesia. They've suffered from it once, they are not trying to suffer the same fate again. So right now, they're just moving around, and I think before the first turtle spawns, it's going to be relatively slow. But as I say that though,
uh-oh, there you go. That's the barrier with a wild charge. Psychos now going to be caught. First blood over to Philippines, but look at Taz. He's able to bring the members back in with a heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall. The jungler for the XP lane, and Dapda will be forced to flicker out of there. Villaluna a bit late on this rotation to match up against the Indonesian mid laners, but it is still just going to be a 1-for-1.
So 1-for-1, so both teams now holding their own, but this is where things get a bit hairy. The first turtle, where everyone has their ultimates, we have to see who can actually weave in the better team fight.
No ultimate for Del Rosario just now. Taz gonna go for it. Will be able to secure the turtle with a brilliant retribution. Dreams gets knocked up, but Philippines decide to back off. Now Dreams flickering forward, gets the Divine Judgment onto Imam, who's able to flicker away. Psychots has the Black Dragon form, looking for it, just decides to zone the Filipino members here and backs off.
Back away, and we can take a look at how the changes have impacted this Faramis, right? The Cult Altar was used in that fight, and with one single spell, the rest of the team from Indonesia is able to melt down that HP bar. So it really isn't an all-win teamfight solution, but it is very situationally used to help save members from big burst damage.
Now it's a complete change from game number 1. Imam, though, going to be immobilized. That's the damage coming through. Woo! Sniped down by Brands, but the kill will go over to Hijume. Brands sacrificing a bit of gold there in the bottom side, but will still be able to catch up down below to pick up that cannon minion.
With stronger laners on the hands of the Indonesian players, they are now able to actually match the aggression, the fights, the skirmishes from the members of the Philippines. And now you can see that the Kaja pick is just having a lot more impact. This is what they wanted to do in game number 1, but the macro play coming in from the Philippines was able to deny that. That won't be the case for this game though, and now this becomes a contest of proactivity. Who can have the higher work rate, the more versatile maneuvers, and just the more proactive plays.
And this is the reason as to why I felt like the Leslie should have been the hero to be banned out by Team Philippines. Because you can see, on this Leslie, sure, you're very vulnerable, but you also are really good at actually going at duels up against the Beatrix. I would actually say in a 1v1, it's skill dependent, but Leslie has a bit of an edge. Why? Because he doesn't need to target any of his skills. It's not a skill shot. Meanwhile, for the Beatrix, you need to go for those render shots to actually be able to compete in that range battle.
They have to be careful though, because Soriano has the Blade of Despair completed, and it will be a big factor in the next fight. The Turtle is being pressured for both teams, but it seems like the Indonesians will have a bit of a lead in the control game.
Divine Judgment and the Petrify. Imam gonna be able to pop the Cold Altar. Taz against 3 members, still able to secure the Turtle. Right now, Psychots jumps in with the Black Dragon form, zoning the backline away. Dapadap gonna be pinned down onto the wall with the heavy spin, and that's Hijume who picks up the killing spree. Everything going well for Indonesia, and everything going wrong for Philippines in the early game of Game 2.
They lose a member to the pickoff, they lose a Turtle to the steal, so Indonesia is completely taking over and looking completely different. Is this a momentum thing? We'll just have to see. Hijume with the Ice Queen's 1 right now will ensure that the Filipino members need to be a bit more careful, even more careful in how they want to position. They've been getting caught out without that slow as well.
Brands has just been farming up a storm. I really want to take a look at these items, right? It's a good steal by Soriano, but he got full turret gold, clearing waves constantly. He should have more gold than Soriano here with the assist that he got as well. But here in the mid lane, the bottom side river, Del Rosario going to be chained up again, and that's the pin down by the heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall for the 2nd time in this game. Dreams with another Divine Judgment over to Imam, as that's Nibiru's Passion dealing no damage over to Taz, who jumps in again. Soriano zoned away, but the damage coming from Brands, shooting him down. Dapadap finally rotating towards that bottom side, but it's a bit too late once again. Team Philippines falling more and more behind as we go and progress into the game.
The Philippines are having very much trouble trying to manage distance because they're being slowed an insane amount. At any moment, it starts with the slow, and then it gets followed up with the Divine Judgment, with the heavy spin. So Indonesia's pick-off game is going exactly how they want it to, and right now, they also have the advantage when it comes to range, and also when it comes to that late game. They have that artillery with the real-world manipulation, and they also have the Leslie that can do a lot of true damage, up to 2k in a single hit, and in the late game, Soriano will have a lot of issues trying to get any impact done in the middle of a big team fight.
There's so much CC from Team Indonesia. There's a lot of survivability from Philippines, but they need to be able to utilize that crazy engage from the Wild Charge, and right now, it just doesn't feel like they are going to be able to. Taz there going for the turtle. That's going to be the real world manipulation that was popped in to force Soriano to flicker out. They baited out the Cold Altar, and they baited out Villaluna into the other side of the wall. Mid lane turret going to be sieged down. Brands looking to poke the Filipino members, but it's a good disengage by both teams. It's still a small victory for Indonesia with that turtle take.
Look at how much movement, how much of a reaction you can see from the Filipino players whenever Psychots is on the map, whenever he makes an appearance. He wasn't even popping the Black Dragon form initially, and everybody was walking backwards in fear of that engage coming through. And when you are so focused like that, you are not looking at Taz with a heavy spin. You are not looking at Dreams waiting for that Divine Judgment.
What I want to look at is definitely the items here for Brands, because I wonder how much gold he's actually gone this game. So far, he has been left untouched to free farm. And he's dealing so much damage. That's going to be the flicker over to Divine Judgment as well to find Del Rosario. The true damage does its work. Brands picks up the kill. Dapadap trying to look for a re-engage now, but only taunting Taz. Look at the poke put down by Brands. Dream's going to be in the midst of it all right now, as he is going to be able to dish out some damage to zone the other members away. Dream still there with Psychots from Psychots with a Petrify to find Soriano, and the furious dive to get Imam low under the tier 1. Gunned down by Brands. It's a 2-0 trade for Indonesia.
Unreal execution coming in from Indonesia right now. We thought that Psychots was the main distraction. He was the one coming in from behind. You barely notice it until it's way, way too late. Let's take a look at that replay right now. The fight was breaking up. There's a lot of action back and forth, and Psychots out of nowhere. The tower doesn't even matter because it's way too low. Indonesia able to actually push Philippines into a very uncomfortable position, and now with all the advantages when it comes to crowd control, when it comes to damage, they are looking at a cruising victory in game number 2.
This is insane.
Unreal.
That's the word you can use for it, right? So much doubt for this Indonesian team after they qualified to represent Indonesia with only a week to prepare right after qualifying. Still able to play super well. And now they're rotating towards that top side. Taz soloing that lure. Del Rosario caught no one there to help him out. Has to use the wild charge defensively and will lose out on a lot of HP. Brand still is able to get out. Has the flicker. They're going to go in for another re-engage here. Just some poke down onto the frontliners. And you can see that true damage, Arashi. I really wonder what the items are looking like right now because the damage is pretty unreal already in 9 minutes for a Leslie.
It comes with a true damage, and when you're concerned about the true damage, you can actually feel the burn coming in as well. Look at the items, as you mentioned. The Windtalker, the Endless Battle as well, allows him to get so much more burst damage initially, and after that, the Berserker's Fury allows him to dish out a healthy amount of DPS. On the other hand, you can see the Iesf, right? Hijumi with the glowing wand. All these tanky members are taking percentage HP damage whenever he's dishing out these spells, and they are absolutely spammable. And the siege game is dangerous.
Luna going to be caught in that real world manipulation. Imam as well zoned away. The wave manipulation from Indonesia, absolutely phenomenal as they are going to be able to use the Lord down below to pick up a turret. With Psychot zoning the other members away with a Black Dragon form as well. That's base turret number 1 taken down. Top side pushing in, but Indonesia will decide to just play it slow. Clear out the mid lane and reset.
They have an absolute advantage when it comes down to those siege situations. Having the Iesf, having the Leslie means that you do not have to go and force those fights because there's no other way for the Philippines to dish back that kind of damage. Soriano is the only solution they have, and at this point, when the only option you have, when you only have a single option, it becomes very easy for your opponents to try and adjust to that. But the Philippines, it seems like they are not willing to completely concede control just yet. They need to be very careful though because the flank game, that flank game is just so on point from Indonesia right now.
This is what we saw in Game 1, only just the opposite happening here in Game 2. Indonesia having control the whole 10 minutes early on. Philippines with a very similar flanking position here to look for something, but it's going to be a concealed play from Indonesia. And oh my god, Dreams finds the Divine Judgment onto the best possible target. Soriano's out. Dapadap has to flicker out, but Psychos chases him down with a passive. Dapadap still surviving here. Only one member taken down, but that might just be the member that Indonesia needs to pick up some more base turrets. That high ground control is no longer available for Soriano. Dapadap trying to go in for some damage right there, but it's actually going to be petrified from Imam! He's going to be taken down. The wild charge in desperation. Villaluna in the back has to back off. It's an absolutely insane game and an insane performance from Indonesia as they knock Philippines down to the lower brackets.
How? What? Oh my, we have no words left right now. How was that possible? That is insane from Indonesia. The awareness to know where are the members from the Philippines, who to target in the middle of everything against a team as patient, as disciplined as the Philippines. Dream was able to find Soriano, and even afterwards, Psychots just denying that cult altar by going with that Petrify Furious Dive combo. Everything is just going so smoothly for them. It doesn't make sense. How is this possible?
Well, sometimes you ask these questions and even I don't know
The
how
caster
to
curse
answer them.
has broken, by the way.
They broke the caster curse, but what a performance by an Indonesian team that was doubted, that
Absolutely
was hated,
doubted.
that was not trusted. Nobody, or just a few people trusted this roster, and they definitely sent a statement to everybody, especially the haters, that they're here for the trophy. They're not here just to participate. They're here to conquer. And so far, up against the tournament favorites in the Philippines. We're going to take a look at the replay first, though, as to what happened, Arashi, in the highlights. I am still, honestly, quite speechless myself.
I think that the Philippines, they had a different game plan from game number 1. but for the most part, it's all pretty similar. So Indonesia made adjustments, and I really dare say that for the Philippines, look at their composition. It really isn't that much different. They only have a Grok as a different pick and a Fredrian, of course in different roles. But the utility game from Indonesia, the range they can abuse is just insane, man. The Iesf pick, call me biased because I'm a Iesf player, but I think it's an absolutely strong hero at this point in time. The utility is just so good. And right now, with the increase in the slow amount, even without the Ice Queen's wand, you see that the Filipino members are constantly getting caught out. And with the Kaja, with the Akai, there's just so many tools available. And we talk about this a lot. You cannot be one-dimensional when you're going up against these top-tier teams. They will adjust to your single tool of the trade and maneuver around it. And Soriano felt all of that completely, man. Everyone is out for him, and he is constantly getting pressured, getting picked off again and again.
My goodness, this final fight by Dreams. His name is Dreams, but this game, he is the Filipino nightmare.
And that's
What
pretty good.
a performance with the Divine Judgment with 2 games on the Kaja. First game, even we questioned that Kaja roam. Wasn't really able to do much early on, but this game he certainly showed why it's such a good pick as a roamer in the early stage with a team that gets to pressure early on, right? Except for the Leslie, every single lane has a bit more pressure, has a bit more kill pressure, and just overall a lead. Even in the jungle, Akai clears faster than the Grok, securing a lead early on with level 4. And Taz, can we just give Taz a bit more appreciation? He did not lose a single retry battle up against a world champion. Up against the Filipino champions. That's Del Rosario, Wise from the Philippines. But like you mentioned, Rashi, this guy is the main man here. The utility, the damage, just take it all. Hijume was a perfect Eve in this game.
Zero Death doing all utility and providing that extra bit of catch or enabling for the rest of the engage. So it's a bit of a 2-layered engage, and it's just so difficult to deal with. The player spotlight, though, is going to be Dreams on that Kaja. Only a single death, despite being one of the more aggressive members from the side of Indonesia. And when your engage tools are this solid, are this dynamic, you don't really have to do much. Everyone else needs to just follow up at the right time and the right moment, and they are just set up for success. So Dreams, this is the impact he's able to bring for his team. And as we mentioned, I think it's just a matter of adjustments. The change from the Indonesian roster, or the Indonesian composition in game number 2 is very visible, and you can see instantly the difference in the performance, especially in that early game.
Lower brackets for Philippines. This is a scene that we have seen a few times before for the Philippines, right? Climbing their way from the lower brackets, but here,
none of the main carries have a death from Indonesia. That is crazy.
Rans, Hijume.
We can also talk about how Faramis, right? Same pattern. The team with the Faramis actually starts losing a lot of steam in the early game because the Cult Altar allows you to be a bit more aggressive, but at the same time, if you don't have the damage to back it up, then you're just allowing your opponents to just hit you more times before you get taken out. I think that is something that a lot of teams need to take into consideration. It is no longer a prio pick, it is a situational pick that can have a lot of value in the right situations.
I think again comes down to that gold lane, right?
Yes.
The Leslie was so good. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to throw it over to our host to take it over right here from the caster desk. Let's see what he has to say.
Oke, kita sudah bersama Brans, perwakilan dari tim Indonesia yang sudah memenangkan game pertama between Indonesia and Filipina on first match of today 14 World Esport Championship. Brans, gimana hari ini? Expect nggak hasil seperti ini?
Pastinya ya kita kan udah latihan kayak mana ya, jadi kita juga expect lah pasti bisa menang lawan Filipina, soalnya ya gak ada libur segala macam, kita latihan benar-benar fokus buat match hari ini dan kedepannya. Jadi ya alhamdulillah. bersyukur.
Dari strategi yang kamu rencanakan bersama teman-teman, apakah semuanya bisa tereksekusi dengan baik?
Alhamdulillah hari ini bisa tereksekusi dengan baik melawan Filipina. Cuman kan ini namanya turnamen panjang ya. Kita tetap harus fokus ke match-match ke depannya.
Adakah lawan yang ingin kamu jumpai dengan teman-teman untuk nextnya, atau siapa yang paling pengen dijumpai?
Ya paling ya tetangga-tetangga kita aja. Malaysia kan ada mantan coach aku juga dan juga Filipina kita pengen ketemu lagi lah di game final.
Alright guys, itu tadi dari Brans ya. Sekali lagi congratulations bro for winning the first match of today. So we will have a short break, so don't go anywhere. Still on Iesf 14 World Esports Championship Bali 2022. Thank you.
We are getting the grid forming here at the Bantu circuit.
Musim balap motor 2022 telah usai. Namun jiwa petualang untuk memacu adrenalin di atas roda 2 masih terus membara.
Away we go in Indonesia. Oh, what a dramatic start!
Mendaki gunung, lewati lembah,
Baru mulai belum apa-apa, udah terjebak motornya.
menyusuri hutan, bahkan pelosok daerah yang jarang terjamah.
Sangat ekstrim dan sangat menyulitkan waktu.
Dengan latar belakang alam yang bersahaja
Stunning island of Lombok.
Mana nih tuh aku aku.
dan cara berkendara dengan kearifan lokal.
Can you believe it?
Banyak rintangan dalam sebuah perjalanan.
And the bike's on fire.
Terjatuh adalah pelajaran.
Goodness me, that was vicious.
Kembali bangkit sebuah keharusan. Deru petualangan tanpa henti, bertualang di negeri sendiri.
Unbelievable. What a finish.
Aduh, drama terus. Nonton nih, komedi yang nyegerin. Lucunya gak habis-habis. Ngelospol. Capek hati drama mulu. Mending dibawa happy.
Nah, setelah hari ini kita bahas berbagai macam match, mulai dari match yang ada di Ice Stage ataupun yang ada di Fire Stage. Sekarang saya mau ngajak kalian untuk relax terlebih dahulu, di mana saat ini saya berada di booth area. Di sini banyak banget berbagai macam activation yang disediakan oleh booth-booth, baik itu booth dari sponsor ataupun booth-booth dari partner-partner PBSI dan Iesf. Seperti yang ada di belakang saya, ini ada Garuda Zone, di mana seperti yang kalian lihat, di sini banyak banget area-area permainan, ada racing simulator, ada juga mesin capit yang bisa mendapatkan hadiah item-item Dota, atau di sekelilingnya banyak sekali game-game atau booth-booth dari developer lokal. Nah sekarang saya mau ngajak kalian untuk kita keliling-keliling di area booth. Mungkin buat kalian yang mau nonton dan mau datang ke acara Iesf World Championship ini, kalian bisa tahu nih, kalian mau ke booth mana dan mau menikmati activation di booth mana aja. So, ayo gue ajak kalian untuk keliling-keliling lebih dahulu. Nah, sekarang kita lagi ada di booth-nya Battle of Guardian, di mana ini merupakan booth developer lokal asal Indonesia yang menciptakan fighting game pertama di Indonesia. Nah, keseruannya nih di sini kayaknya kita bisa main game nih. Kita bisa mencoba trial untuk main game Battle of Guardian. Nah, gue juga penasaran ada apa aja sih di booth Battle of Guardian. Jadi yuk kita coba aja samperin langsung ke booth-nya Battle of Guardian. Let's go. Nah, aku sekarang udah sama Kak Jenny selaku strategisnya ya Mbak ya. Strategisnya dari Battle of Guardian. Nah Mbak, aku mau nanya-nanya nih sedikit tentang apa sih sebenarnya Battle of Guardian itu. Mungkin teman-teman di sana masih banyak yang belum tahu. Mungkin boleh tolong dijelasin Mbak?
Oke, Battle of Guardian sendiri adalah game fighting pertama dari Indonesia yang kita mengusung konsepnya Web3 nih.
Oke.
Jadi kita mengusung pakainya itu sistemnya blockchain gitu dari beberapa karakter. Nah, beberapa karakter kita itu juga terinspirasi nih dari beberapa legenda dan story-story lokal. Seperti kita juga ada kalau yang macan putih. Macan putih itu adalah dari Prabu Siliwangi atau Cindaku.
Oke.
Lalu juga kita ada yang perempuan itu ada namanya Sofia. Sofia itu kita juga terinspirasi dari Nyi Roro Kidul.
Oke.
Lalu juga kita ada Aling Dharma atau kalau misalnya di dalam in-game kita namanya Mata.
Oke.
Gitu.
Kalau di dalam in-game-nya sendiri kan aku lihat ini ada banyak fighter ya Mbak?
Iya.
Nah sebenarnya apakah ini ada jenis-jenis fighternya gitu nggak sih? Apa semuanya tuh kategorinya sama gitu?
Ada, kita ada 3 kategori fighters di game kita. Ada dari Guardians, ada dari Demon, dan juga dari Human. Tapi kalau Human di sini adalah ceritanya tuh udah cyborg. Jadi setengah human, setengah robot.
Oh,
gitu. Jadi mereka memiliki special skill sendiri nih.
Oke. Kira-kira total ada berapa karakter sih Mbak yang udah ada sekarang atau yang mungkin rencananya bakalan ada nih di Battle of Guardian?
Sekarang ini untuk in-game kita udah keluarin 40 plus karakter. Tapi kita juga akan tetap develop sih. Kita ada beberapa yang masih kita on hold gitu.
Oke. Nah ini nih guys, seru banget. Berarti ini bisa dimainin di mana Mbak nih?
Ini kita akan ada di PC Games.
Oke.
Ini only PC Games, tapi langsung ke website kita aja Battle of Guardians. Dari situ kalian bisa download game ini di PC kalian sendiri.
Udah bisa main sama, mungkin aku mau main sama temen aku yang ada di luar kota gitu, atau ini baru bisa offline gitu Mbak?
Bisa, kita ada 2 mode, ada offline mode sama ada turnamen mode. Kita juga ada PvP.
Oke.
PvP jadi secara online, kita akan nyari match secara online gitu. Jadi bisa dari, nggak cuma dari luar kota, tapi bisa juga dari luar negeri gitu.
Nah, buat kalian yang suka main fighter game, cobain Battle of Guardian. Ini karya lokal loh. Ini fighter game dari Indonesia pertama kali berarti ya Mbak ya?
Iya.
Dan Battle of Guardian ini juga udah dipertandingkan sebagai kompetisi eksebisi ya kemarin di Piala Presiden ya Mbak ya? Nah sekarang aku penasaran Mbak, ada apa aja sih di dalam booth-nya Battle of Guardian di acara Iesf ini, dan sekiranya kalau penonton mau kesini tuh ya tadi mereka bisa ngapain aja dan mungkin ada hadiah-hadiah gitu nggak sih?
Ada banget. Kita akan ngadain turnamen. Sebenarnya nanti turnamen kita akan ada di water stage.
Oke.
Itu akan di tanggal 3, 4, sama 9. Itu prize pool-nya akan ada di 10 juta. Kita akan bagi-bagi nih. Nah, tapi di sini juga kita ada fun match. Jadi di sini kalian bisa coba game-game kita. Ada tiga ini. Kalian bisa coba pakai arcade games, bisa juga pakai joystick nih untuk mencoba beberapa experience-nya beda-beda nih.
Benar.
Nah,
Kalau arcade games tuh yang kayak pro player gitu
iya,
kan.
benar.
Gitu. Oke.
Jadi ada pakai arcade-nya sendiri, mesin arcade-nya sendiri. Nah, selain kita showcase game kita sendiri, kita juga ada nih beberapa merchandise yang kita eksklusif banget nih untuk Iesf. Seperti jersey, terus baju yang aku pakai nih sekarang, kaos yang aku pakai. Lalu kita juga ada karakter, jadi ada 3D printing karakter. Kita juga ada figur, ada juga keychain. Gitu.
Nah, boleh nggak aku izin nih? Mungkin buat teman-teman di sana juga penasaran gimana sih game Battle of Guardian. Aku izin main dulu, boleh nggak Mbak?
Boleh, boleh banget. Yuk,
Oke.
kita main yuk.
Siap.
Yuk.
Mbak Jen, thank you banget udah ngasih kesempatan aku untuk main Battle of Guardian. Gamenya seru banget. Ini sih buat kalian yang suka main fight game bakal ketagihan banget ya Mbak ya. Oke kalau kayak gitu. Mbak Jen, aku pamit. Thank you ya Mbak Jen ya.
Thank you.
Oke.
Masih bingung cari jasa ekspedisi? Central Cargo hadir sebagai solusi pengiriman barang Anda dengan terus meningkatkan kualitas pelayanan. Sebagai komitmen kami, memberikan pelayanan terbaik untuk Anda. Kini kami telah dipercaya oleh ribuan customer. Di balik pertumbuhan Central Cargo yang pesat, kami memiliki ratusan drop point yang tersebar di seluruh Indonesia. Dalam membangun kepercayaan, kita tumbuh bersama.
All it takes is one dream. One dream that becomes a journey. To drive an ambition. Believing in yourself. Persevering challenges. Always focused on the dream. To grow aspirations. Having the will to keep going. Building a future with a legacy. Knowing dreams can come true. Over 11 years of growth. The spirit of entrepreneurship. Created possibilities. Realized new potentials. Innovate for the better. Expand horizons. To change lives. To connect new ideas. To explore new grounds. With the future in sight. Together.
Okay, so here we have Gabian for Honest Sport. And I have a few questions to ask. So the first question, how confident are you for the Indonesian Mobile Legends national team to win in this competition?
Yang pastinya yakin banget, soalnya kayak aku juga sering lihat kayak beberapa turnamen kayak mereka mainnya gimana dan yang gak kalah jagonya sama tim-tim negara lain, jadi harus menang.
So what do you expect for e-sport Indonesia?
E-sport Indonesia sekarang kan udah dibilang lumayan maju juga ya maksudnya dibanding negara-negara lain selain Filipina. Jadi ya semoga bisa lebih berkembang lagi, bisa lebih maju lagi, bisa banyak event gede di Iesf. Amin.
So okay, for the last question, what is your opinion for ISF?
Opinion ya, udah oke banget sih. Apalagi tadi aku lihat kayak dari tahun ya, dari 2009 sampai sekarang itu kayak udah hebat banget, tetap pertahanin, dibikin jauh lebih baik lagi.
Okay, that's all. Okay, so today we have Malaysia that will be competing in Mobile Legends Bang Bang in World Esports Championship in 2022, and we have a few questions. So the first question, are you satisfied with your performance in this match?
It's fine. I think the boys are quite happy, but they are not overconfident because our motive is to go straight into the finals.
So for the next question, what is your key factor to help you to win in this match?
Menangkan Momo lane, menangkan goal lane dan mid lane.
Even you have won this match, do you think that you will improve for your next match?
Dah menang match ni, perlu improve tak untuk next match?
Kita nak akan buat lagi the best lah daripada sebelum ni. InsyaAllah kita akan buat lagi power.
So you will face other country in your next match, right? Will you use the same strategy on the next game?
Maybe tidak. Kita akan gunakan strategi lain. Sebab setiap team ada strategi orang, so kita orang ada strategi untuk counter orang.
So for the last question, what is your biggest challenge to beat your opponent?
What is the biggest challenge to beat an opponent?
Team mana yang bagi dia?
What will be?
The biggest opponent to beat the opponent is about we studied them. We need to Melayu je. Kita orang nak kena beat diorang daripada segi strategi dengan drafting itu je lah kot.
Tadi macam panjang.
Okay, that's all for my question. Thank you for your time and I hope the best for your competition.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So today we have Lotus from Chile, and they will be competing in the World Esports Championship 2022. So Lotus, how was your trip from Chile to Bali, and what is your impression of the place?
Was a very long trip. We came from Chile. We have 3 connection flights: Chile, Houston, Tokyo, Indonesia, Jakarta, Bali. So it was a very long trip, 2 days in a row, but it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun too. Totally worth it. Bali is a very beautiful place, so we are so happy to be here. We are delightful right away.
So first, how was your trip from your country to Bali? What is your impression about the place?
So about my trip, it was a little bit tiring, of course, from Saudi Arabia to Bali. Very long journey, but in the end, it worked out. Everything was fine, and my impressions was very great. The place here is wonderful, amazing, beautiful place. And yeah.
So about the competition, how do you guys prepare for this championship?
Well, we are a stack from Mexico, of course. Everyone has their own team, but we kind of practice with scrims a little bit 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So for this tournament, which team or participant do you think will be your biggest rival?
So I think our biggest rival will be from our same region, Philippines. We're in the same group. I think they're pretty strong, and I'm hoping we can have a good match.
So you've traveled so far from Maldives to Bali, Indonesia. What is your target in this competition?
Actually, we look forward to be in the top 1 or 2.
Okay. As we know, this is the biggest esport tournament in the world. Do you have any pressure on your shoulder, and how do you deal with them?
Actually, obviously it's a tournament, right? There'll be a lot of pressures, but then I think we'll be good in handling it.
Okay. So you already been through several stages of Iesf qualification. What is the key of success for you in order to qualify for this tournament?
Well, the key is practice a lot, have fun again. Focus on the game, study the game. The game is your life. in a competition.
We also know that there have been a significant growth of the esport industry for the past few years, and there are many esport fans that want to represent their country, just like you.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice or tips for them so they can achieve that dream?
So I think we should all remember, like, it's a team game, so we should solely not only focus on ourselves, but we should maybe focus on the team and how to grow as a team together, and sticking together through the thick and thin. I think that would be the greatest tip I can give.
Okay, so that's all for my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, and I hope you the best.
Thank you,
for this tournament. I hope the best for Mexico team.
Thank you so much.
We hope that too. Thanks to you, Pong.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi guys, back again with me, Putra Sutopo as your fellow host. So right now, I'm at the Earth Stage area, where this area will be used as the stage for opening ceremony of Iesf 14 World Esports Championship Bali 2022. As you can see behind me, they are all practicing for the opening ceremony at 7 o'clock GMT+7. To be honest, I cannot wait to see the opening ceremony because there will be an amazing performance from Alfiref and other performers. So, for those of you who want to watch it, you can watch it through the Iesf official channel on Twitch TV. To be honest, you need to watch it, okay? So right now, I want to continue to see their practicing for the opening ceremony. Bye guys.
Salam kebajikan. Apa kabar teman-teman media semuanya? Luar biasa. Good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. Berdiri untuk menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya yang akan dilanjutkan dengan Mars PB Sports Indonesia. Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sana
sekitar 42 juta ya e-sport ya, pemain e-sport, tentunya akan bisa menyebarkan ini bisa menghidupkan ekosistem daripada e-sport itu sendiri. Tentunya akan berpengaruh secara ekonomi dan kesehatan.
For this event, and hopefully Bali and Indonesia will get a really good name in the international, right?
Is going to influence a positive creativity in humanity and a new way to socialize, a new way to be together, a new way to be friends. When a parent looks at a kid in the computer with headset on and talking,
Salam Esports.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. Let's go Bali.
Let's go Bali.